The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and if you like to attend our meetings, they're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to NashuaGOP.org to see our website and learn about the events that we have. Hello, and help me welcome Jack Tulley, the new chair of the Nashua City Republican Committee.
Good afternoon, Carl. How are you?
Fine. And are you in the job already?
Well, it's only been a few days, Carl.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find the water bubbler. It's going to be an exciting ride. There's been a lot of people who have gone this way before me who have done a lot of work. There's a lot of positive energy in the room, and I need to channel that and keep everybody focused,
right,
so we can move forward with a solid Republican agenda here in Nashua.
Good. I think we need to have some voice in Nashua now that we don't have any at the Concord. Jack, what made you take this job on?
Well, Carl, I've been active in politics for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
My first role was on the Finance Committee for Senator Warren Rudman back in 1980.
Wow.
And since that time, I've been involved in pretty much every race you can imagine. There was a time when I was chairman of the National Auto Dealers Political Action Committee in Washington, and the staff attorney said, you better keep a quiet voice at home while you're in this role. So I didn't do anything for a few years. So fast forward to this most recent election, and I tip my cap to the Democrats. They did a great job. And essentially, they handed the Republicans back our 2010. I thought then it's time that I got a little bit more involved. And someone suggested that I take a look at this. My name was nominated, and voila, here I am. Okay,
so you're going to step right in and lead us back to victory.
There's a lot of work to be done. I don't think it's going to be turning on a light switch and making changes overnight, but I hope it can't get any worse. There are 27 state reps seats, as you know, here assigned to us in Nashua, and not one of them is Republican. So what happens there is there's no balance. There's no room for compromise. I think, Carl, that's a disservice to the working families in Nashua. Nobody's listening to their point of view, and we'll go from there and see what we can get done.
Well, that's I think you're right. I think you do need 2 points of view in there,
Sure.
At least that somebody's looking out for the different audience maybe, but at least they ought to weigh their interests against the interests of the other party too.
It's the only way to do it, I would say.
And Nashua now, with not only the representatives, the state senators, the aldermen, all the Democrats, and the Board of Education is overwhelmingly Democrat. And we do want to get people who are of the Republican mind to at least voice their interests in each one of these venues.
That's only fair to the citizens of Nashua.
That's right.
And I guess I don't want to lead the questioning here, but the next question may be, how do we get there? And in my role as chairman, once I get settled in and the dust itself settles, it's been a whirlwind 5 days since I was elected into the position. I think what we have to do is start raising some money and then start looking for people that are interested in running for office and then support them. Get boots on the ground, get people holding signs, whatever we have to do to support the candidates. I'm not so sure we've done as good a job as we could have in the past.
Well, I think that's true, and I think this we started this show just to help along that line.
Sure.
I think that we can use this venue as a way of introducing some of the policies that you want to support. Is there anything that you are thinking of right now? How we go about getting people elected and telling the audience our point of view?
We start with a game plan or a business plan, if you prefer. That's still in development. I'm not ready to talk about that fully yet. It will involve raising capital. It will involve picking up the phone, having coffee with people, getting them interested, and knowing that there's support behind them, and offering them encouragement.
Well, I hope we find a lot of people that people talk about it. I think maybe educating them too about what it entails. In some of these offices, if you're holding an alderman spot, what do they do? How do they do it?
Sure.
And how much time does it take? Because a lot of people have a job that they have to support their family.
Well, this is true. This is true. And here I am, recently retired, and I've got the time to take on the role of chairman. And I can't expect that we're going to find other retired people to fill these spots. Finding people that have full-time jobs will be very, very helpful, I think. And so that's where we need to offer them support.
And this would include more than just the state offices or the federal offices. It's the city, the county, and everything.
We're a Nashua committee. Right. I think we start here in Nashua. You've mentioned the Board of Education, the aldermen. Now we have 9 wards in Nashua, and 3 at-large seats, is it, or 4?
No. They're all not. For the Board of Education.
For the Board of Aldermen.
Board of Aldermen is 4.
So there's 13 seats in the Horseshoe downtown. There are seats that are all filled by men and women who have Nashua's best interest at heart, but they're all Democrats, and I view that as having one frame of mind, and I think we need to get some other people in there with different views and different points of view. If everybody's thinking the same way, you get the same results, and there's no room for compromise. And I think that makes for better government, Carl, in my view. And I think the citizens of Nashua, the working families here, they deserve that. Yeah. So
definitely.
That's a job I want to take on.
That's going to be a hard job, getting everybody.
Now you tell me. Thank you.
Oh, you knew that right from the beginning.
I did. No, I did. I went to this with my eyes open. That's a fair statement. Yeah.
Well, I think you're going to be doing a number of different things, even getting to know some of the people that have been active a little bit better than you have before. I know we go way back, but there's other people here that are very good that perhaps haven't been drawn into the fire as much as they could.
Well, their history is going to be interesting for me to discover. I know right off the bat, I held my first meeting Monday night at my home of my executive committee, and there's members on that inner board, if you will, who've been around for 20 years. And they know where the bodies are buried, and they probably know what's been done right and what's been done wrong. We haven't started talking about that quite yet. I'm still trying to figure out where all the files are, and this weekend we have to go do the bank signature cards. But here's an important thing I think I'd like to tell you right now is we're going to change the web address. Currently it's an nrcc.org, I believe. So we're changing the .org, the TDL, to Nashua.gop. And I expect that will be in effect by the end of next week.
Okay.
So we'll be www.nashua.gop.
Okay, and that'll be useful to the people who are listening in now to know that if they're going to look at the activities that you have listed in there, or will have listed.
Well, I think we've got to also refresh the website and put more current content in there. I mean, you look at the way we communicate these days; everything's electronic. You walk down Main Street, people aren't looking at each other, they're looking at their phones. At any Main Street, it's that way. And so we've got to update and make our web presence, our electronic presence, cleaner, faster, more efficient, and more interesting for people to read.
Will people be able to communicate that way to you by leaving messages or asking questions?
Sure, absolutely. My email address is going to be right on there.
Okay.
Totally transparent.
Okay.
You send an email, it comes right to me in my phone.
And you'll be planning events which you want to invite the local voters to?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that'll be on your website?
Our calendar will be there on the website.
Okay.
There'll be things that'll be public, and there'll also be things that are for dues-paying members only.
Right. And where we meet, are we still going to be meeting on the second Thursday of every month?
According to our bylaws, yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Okay. So people will know what to do, what to call you if they have any questions, or contact you
Sure.
through the website.
Yeah, email me. It's going to be the best.
Yeah, that's probably the best for records.
Yeah, most bulletproof way to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Good. Good. Well, I hope you're able to get. We're welcoming members. We always welcome new members.
Mm-hmm.
And or you have any plans for any kind of event where members could come and find out, talk to some of the people before they join up, or just come to our meeting?
The meetings are open to all
Right.
Republicans and all independents.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should welcome the independents as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how skillfully we've done that in the past. It isn't just a Republican club,
Right.
It's an independent club. It's a Nashua club, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So people will be invited to attend those meetings. We'd like to grow the database any way we can. We're going to take a look at voter lists
Mm-hmm.
and see if we're reaching out to the right audience. Are we attracting the right voter? We hope we are. So we're gonna fine tune that.
Okay. Well, what else do you think that the organization should do to become more prominent in Nashua?
Well, we are going to update our website, work on our mailing list. We are going to be more visible in other public events, parades, things like that. I think we're going to go right to the limits of what the law allows us to do, to let people know that we're here as a committee, as a group of Nashua people fighting for the working families. I think people are turning their back on these folks these days, and it's up to us to say, hey, listen to us.
Yeah,
We've got a good
that's
story
right.
to tell. We're worried that that government's getting too big, and we all know that any government that's big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take away everything you have. So we better
one
all pay
thing.
attention, I think, Carl.
I thought of the words too. We're for smaller government and bigger choices.
Sure.
Whereas
Yeah.
most of our opponents are for larger government and less choice.
Right. Well, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
You've been a state rep for many years. You've been there in the fight in Concord. What would attract people to take on that role?
I think the best thing is to make them feel welcome and that their contribution is worth the time.
Yep.
And if you can make them feel they're being listened to and they have a chance of making a difference, because I think that's what we felt in 2010.
Yep.
And we got a lot of people who never wanted to run before running. I mean, we had people like Kevin Avard coming
Sure.
in the first time.
Yep.
He went from that to being a state senator and a very active state senator.
He's done a great job.
And I think people feel that they're being listened to. They're being effective. It's worth their effort because you're taking away time from families, if
Sure,
nothing else.
sure.
And this goes for men and women. I mean, both. We probably need more women to represent us, too.
I would hope so.
And I think they're interested, but they really may not have felt welcome. I don't know.
Well, it occurs to me that the state rep job is one of the most important jobs in the state, all for $100 a year.
Right.
But
And mileage.
and mileage too. You mentioned women. As I was at the annual meeting of the Nashua Republican City Committee last Wednesday night, I was very impressed with how many women were there, how many are not just in the audience, but are active in the day-to-day running of the committee and are in elected office or have held elective office in the past. And so we get the women's perspective firsthand. And I agree with you. Getting more women to run for office would be a really good thing to do. Hope we can accomplish that.
Well, that's just make everybody feel welcome. In fact, what impressed me just more recently in the last few years, we have some of the people who are just moving into town taking an interest in coming in.
Sure.
And I think that's one area that we've probably neglected, the new residents of Nashua. We should contact them right away and invite them over.
Become the new welcome wagon.
That's right, in a way.
Are they even in existence anymore?
I don't know if they are or not, but you can find out.
I'm probably dating myself even mentioning it. Good Lord.
But I think that's another element that we have to look at. And
I'll take a look at how we can reach out to those people. Like,
well,
you buy a house, or there's records. I'm sure we can find these people.
And I
out.
have them.
And you have them. Don't tell the other guys about that.
No, we tried to do a couple programs on that. We never got off the ground.
Well, there's people moving to New Hampshire for the quality of life. Nashua just received another recognition for being the best city in the state to live in. We've been the best city in the country to live in a couple of times in the past under different administrations. And you can't deny that New Hampshire is a great place to work, to live and raise a family. I've raised my family here in this town, and I love Nashua. I love living here. There's a lot to do.
Well, I was one of the people that lived in Massachusetts, moved out of here, and went down to Texas for 5 years.
Oh, dear.
But then I didn't want to come back to Massachusetts, but New Hampshire was certainly welcome.
Well.
And three of my four children and their families are in here, in the area.
Oh, good.
So that helps out.
And grandkids, too.
Yeah, grandkids, too. And but as you say, this is a good place to live. It's a good place to do things. But we have to look at things, I think, in a little bit more of a business perspective. And I think we lack that in the past. I think as a businessman, you understand how you have to approach some of these things. It's political, but it's also needs a business perspective on how you find out if you're getting your money's worth out of the funds that we collect in taxes and whatever, or how do we how do we get the money to do the things that the state needs to do? You don't want to have an income tax or a sales tax. We like to keep that in New Hampshire, and if we can do it by some other ways of spreading the income so that economic waves, if you will, one area goes down, the other area goes up. So you have a number of different areas that you should be able to generate enough reliable income.
Well, mentioning business, I've always believed, Carl, that having a healthy rainy day fund is good business.
Which we finally do.
Which we have a pretty handsome balance in our state coffers right now. And I hope and I pray that the incoming slate of senators and executive councilors and state reps appreciate that money and spend it very frugally and very wisely. Now, most of that's coming from our robust economy. We're a tourism state. We're getting rooms and meals taxes, toll booth money that goes into the highway funds. But I think a lot of the surplus is coming from the business profits tax right now, and business has been good around the state. So I don't want to see us raise taxes. I think the outgoing administration has done a good job managing our funds, and thereby resulting in a healthy rainy day fund. So I don't think we need new broad-based taxes.
No.
So one of the things that concerns me when you talk about taxes, is what becomes of the internet tax. I don't understand it enough to talk intelligently about it. It frightens me because everybody does so much commerce online and buys things on Amazon. It's become a whole third economy, if you will. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I hope we can keep it at bay for a long time.
Well, I know they couldn't make up their mind on how to attack that problem.
Right.
But I think more discussions will be going on this year because of what's happening in the other states. And some of the states are trying to collect back taxes on some of this.
Well, good luck with that. I don't see that happening.
Well, but we do have to protect ourselves that way. We do have to live in a legal manner, and I think that we have the knowledge up there. There are a number of people that still are, Republicans that are still in the legislature that can handle some of those things. And we'll be having people on this show, as we have in the past, from the Finance Committee, to find out as we go into the year what's going to happen, what are the key elements that they're considering. So we'll be trying to air some of that.
Well, I hope you're able to get to somebody who's knowledgeable on infrastructure and what our 10-year plan is for highway reconstruction or renovation or new bridges. And we've got this funky red list of bridges that are about to fall off their abutments into rivers and God knows where else that have to be replaced. They're going to become impassable, and if all of a sudden you lose a bridge, that's going to kill commerce in that area.
Well, that's what we really paid attention to last year.
Oh, good.
I was on the Public Works Committee, and that's one of our biggies. We have capital improvements and public works, roads, and roads actually include transportation by rail and air as well, and buses. All those programs are coming up again. Capital expenditures for the first year, and the 10-year plan is the second year. So we'll be active in that. And Nashua's got their programs too that they were trying to push. But we were able to, with the extra money that we had, the cutting taxes and getting more income was beautiful.
Sure. Because
we had even more than what we put in the rainy day fund, and $30 million went into bridges and roads, and that was a welcome sight for the towns too. The towns got an increased amount of money.
Here's where we're probably going to be at odds a little bit. I'm retired. I'm a retired auto dealer. My family's been in the market here in the Merrimack Valley for 75 or 80 years, since my grandfather had a filling station in Lowell. But as a seller of cars, I've also always been very pro mass transit. I'm a pro rail guy, and I was in conversations with Vince Bono, who's the guy behind the Boston Surface Railroad or Railway Company. I think it's a railroad company, and he's got a lot of energy and a pretty good game and pretty good business plan to get rail into New Hampshire. It's going to take him a little bit longer than I think he first thought, but I'd pay attention to this fellow. I'm sorry that the state legislature said, no, we don't want to talk to you guys, or we're not pro-rail because we don't think it's going to work. Well, I don't know what transit system isn't underwritten by some level of taxation, I suppose. So I think rail comes along one of these days and helps us out. I hope it does.
We haven't talked about that, and you probably don't know that I'm on the Nashua City's Rail Committee.
Oh, good.
And one of the things that I like them to look at, because I was one of the key votes that got it into the budget for one time.
Oh, good.
Because I feel that it does have possibilities. I grew up on Long Island in New York and watched how Long Island grew.
Yep.
It just exploded, and it was the rail that kept people going. I mean, people would take a 2-hour train into New York.
Yep.
To come out, though, but eventually they got all the businesses businesses are throughout the island.
Yep.
You go from just potato farming to nice classic wineries where they're putting out all sorts of good wines. All the way out to the end of the island is industry of one way or another. A lot of high-tech courses. I think that could happen here in New Hampshire, but we ought to consider all transportation.
Sure.
And we ought to consider all the people that are going to be initially impacted by that, one way or another. We try to find the positive way of bringing them in so that everybody benefits, not just two towns in southern New Hampshire, which people think are the only ones that are pushing it.
Somewhere about 15 or 20 years ago, I was at a dinner with the leadership of the Lowell Sun in a room at the Lowell Auditorium before an event. And the conversation turned to the growth of Lowell at that time, when we've got to tip our cap to the work that Senator Tsongas had done.
That's right.
Getting downtown Lowell made a national park. That was clever and really good work on behalf of Senator Tsongas, God rest his soul. But then they went on to say that the recent growth, and this is going back 15 or 17 years, Carl, but the recent growth in the old mill buildings, where they're being transitioned into dwellings and artist lofts,
Right.
was being driven by the trains, by the rail bringing people north out of Boston because it was easy and inexpensive, plus the real estate pricing, the housing costs were driving people north. And I don't think you can find one of those that are I think the vacancy is pretty low down there. So that brought people into Lowell, and they've stayed. And if the rail comes further north to Nashua, I think people will stay here. You know, there's some people that feel that the opposite will happen, that there'll be an exodus from Nashua. So
well, that's not true.
Time will tell.
And people will come from the city, the younger people from the colleges and everything,
That's true.
up to the jobs that could be up here. Because they may live there, and then later when they try to settle down, they'll come up here with their families.
Yeah, well,
And because their jobs will be up here, they'll see how nice the communities are and everything like
Sure,
that.
yeah.
So anyway, I think that's one of the things that people ought to use in selling that. It's a combination of things that will drive transportation on the southern part of New Hampshire, because we don't have a coordinated effort.
it'll be part of my chorus as I lead the Republicans into the fray, as it were, Carl.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting, and I hope we can get together again, especially after the governor gives the budget in, and see
Sounds
what
like
you
a
think
plan.
about that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Peace.
very much.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.